on the significant role he played in shaping Namibia's progressive policies. His leadership not only advanced gender equality during the liberation struggle, but also led the foundation for post-independence policies to empower women in politics, education, and the workforce. To shed light on his enduring legacy, we are joined by Shinedima Salatiel, the Executive Director of Women's Action for Development, or WAD, Executive Director of the Women's Action for Development, a key organization that continues to champion women's social, economic, and political empowerment in Namibia. Salatiel, very good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time to join us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting us.
Much obliged. Your impression of the late founding president. Talk to us about that to kickstart off this conversation.
Yes, first I would really like to express our, heartfelt condolences to the passing of the founding father, a pioneer of gender equality in the country. For those who were there at the time when Namibia got independence, coming out of a war situation and looking at the laws and policies that were there at the time and reforming them, and women's economic empowerment, women's empowerment, gender equality to become one of those policies. This could have just come from a position of consideration, understanding, and I think this is what defines the founding father. We have seen in many countries in Africa, this was not the case. But for us in Namibia, we even few years after independence, we had a ministry specifically created for women's affairs. And it was in his office, in the office of the president. So that shows the importance that he has given to women empowerment and participation in governance. Yes.
Women empowerment, even to this day, is quite a controversial and touchy issue when you talk about it. There are men who feel that women are being over-empowered. And now imagine the late founding president was taking these bold steps in the 90s when the conversation around women empowerment, what a woman's place in society is, that still persists to this day, where some people feel that a woman ought to be in the kitchen, ought to be this and that, to conform to the African traditions and whatnot. What was the rationale behind him? Why did he make it a point to say, look, we need to empower, and not only empower women, but protect them as well? And how has it shaped the work that you do?
Yes. One rationale that I could think of is that, you see, a government makes decisions. And those decisions affect both men and women. And it is just fair enough to have the views and opinions and the life experience of both men and women. And you can only have that when you have both of them on the table, expressing their own views and opinions on policies, government policies and laws that are coming. Because at the end of the day, these laws and policies will affect them in one way or the other. I think that was the consideration there. It also came at the time when we got independence. Remember, 1994 was the Beijing platform. Came at the time when women empowerment was top on the international development agenda. And Namibia, as a country, is one of those few countries in Africa that actually followed suit with international development agenda. And we have so far done very well when it comes to gender equality. I think we have done well to a point where the representation of both men and women in our two houses of parliament, especially in the National Assembly, is high, even though in the National Council is still low. And to a point where we have seen many senior leadership positions taken up by women. And even policies and procedures, government policies, you will see that some of them give preference and priority to women just to meet that gap. And this all come from his time.
Yeah.
That's the kind of leader that we are talking about when it comes to gender equality.
Yeah. When you look at us democratically, Namibia is essentially, still a baby, second last born of Africa. We used to be the last born, and then South Sudan, of course, was also created. When you look at some of the oldest democracies in the world, and America in particular, which has never seen a female president. As a matter of fact, the vice presidency position was only held by a woman in the form of Kamala Harris, despite the fact that it's over 250 years old, the American democracy. What do you think has influenced, us to, in other African countries as well? We've seen Malawi also have female president. We've seen Liberia have a female president. But the so-called leaders of democracy still are not ready for a woman in that top job. What has influenced, our philosophy in terms of understanding that women ought to be also, afforded that opportunity to lead?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the entire international community is still dominated by patriarchy. And that's why, some of the countries that you're talking about still, do not have confidence in women taking up that high office position. But for us, I think with time from independence, we somehow accepted that a woman can be a leader. And part of that acceptance came from the conditioning and the conducive environment that has been created by the leadership. So it requires leadership, it requires influence, and it requires changing people's minds on remember, we are an African society.
Absolutely.
And with African beliefs and traditions, a man should be there. He should be the leader.
Head of the house.
Yeah, but I think over the years we have somehow accepted that women can also become leaders. Therefore, we are moving towards that path of having our first female president. Something that many African countries that got their independence many years and between, embracing our culture and embracing modernity. And I think he played a very influential role there to say, yes, we do have these laws, we do embrace, these modern laws that we have, but we also have a culture that we subscribe to. So what I like about his involvement in that is that anything that violates the Constitution should not be followed by any cultural practices. And if you look at how this Olufuko matter was handled, it was all in line with the Constitution, or it is all in line with the Constitution. And this is what we need to do, I think, as Africans, that whatever violates the Constitution, we should either amend it in terms of our African cultural practices or laws or norms. We either amend it, and if it's not for the benefit of society, we replace it with whatever is good for society. I think we don't promote getting rid of culture at all. But what we say is that the Constitution is the supreme law of the country, and our culture should be within that framework. Our cultural practices, norms, and beliefs should be within that framework. And I think that's what he has championed throughout his life.
Absolutely. Lastly, where do you think, wherever he is right now, in Africa, there's this belief that we don't die, we're spirits. We move on. We are promoted to the next level. Wherever he is right now, looking down on us as a country, where do you think he would want us to be in as far as, empowering Namibia's women, empowering Namibia's girl child? Where do you, in your view, see us going through his eyes?
The founding father was a man with a vision. He had a vision. And part of that vision has been achieved. And I think wherever he is, he's at peace. He is happy with what we have achieved thus far, even though there's still a lot that we need to achieve. But as a country, since independence, we had never had any major conflicts in the country. We continue to be one of the most stable, peaceful countries on the continent and in the world. And despite some structural challenges that we have, your unemployment and so on, overall, I think we fare well.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy that he has departed at the time when Namibia is ranked #1 in Africa in gender equality, a testament of his